First, fast, accurate. You're watching WSBT-22 News at 11.
We started off with that 17 number, and just so you understand, Ted Cruz, I don't know if he likes me or if he doesn't like me, but he is one hell of a competitor.
It's probably the most important Indiana primary in recent memory. Good evening, I'm Rick Shutt.
I'm Jennifer Copeland. Tonight, the eyes of the nation are on Indiana. WSBT-22 has live team coverage across the state. Patrick Roth is in Indianapolis with Ted Cruz's campaign, Diane Daniels with St. Joseph County Democrats, and Zach Crenshaw at the Walorski campaign.
Now, they all have reports coming up. We're also watching the big votes that will affect funding for area schools.
Yeah, we are. But let's get right to the results. In the presidential race, a close contest for much of the night on the Democratic side between Hillary Clinton and Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. But as you see right here, Sanders is the winner in Indiana.
Now, for Republicans, it was a quick night for Donald Trump. He was the projected winner shortly after the polls closed tonight, and that forced Ted Cruz to drop out of the presidential race. WSBT-22's Patrick Roth is the only local reporter at the Cruz watch party in downtown Indianapolis tonight. Patrick, what was the mood like down there?
Now, the room is pretty empty right now. Cruz supporters have left it, but it was incredibly somber and sad as Cruz made that announcement. There was almost an audible gasp when he did. Several people were in tears, and several more were very close to tears. Now, it was very clear pretty quickly that this was going to be a big night for Donald Trump, but a lot of people here expected Cruz to press on. In fact, his campaign actually sent out an email saying that Cruz would be holding campaign rallies in Nebraska and Washington tomorrow, and a lot of the people here plan to follow Cruz there.
And so, with a heavy heart, but with boundless optimism for the long-term future of our nation, we are suspending our campaign.
We're just heartbroken, stunned. What else can you say? This was not expected.
And we believe in that so much that we hopped in our cars and came here and called and walked. But we trust in God. We trust in God. But I'm disappointed right now.
Now, John Kasich's campaign sent out an email saying that their strategy continues to be to try to win enough delegates to push for an open convention and to win the nomination there. But RNC Chairman Reince Priebus tweeted out earlier that at this point it's clear Donald Trump is the presumptive Republican nominee, and it's time for the Republican Party to unite around Donald Trump and focus on defeating Hillary Clinton. Of course, the big question is, can and will Cruz supporters wind up supporting Donald Trump in November? Live in Indianapolis, Patrick Roth, WSBT 22 News.
It'll be interesting to see if that Republican Party does rally around Donald Trump now. Patrick, thanks for that live report.
U.S. Representative Todd Young will be the Republican nominee for Senate in November. He defeated 3rd District Representative Marlin Stutzman by more than 30%. This campaign has been very contentious. Stutzman has characterized Young as an establishment pawn. Young called Stutzman an ideologue who prioritizes obstructionism over passing legislation. Young will take on Democrat Barron Hill in November. The Senate seat is being vacated by retiring Republican Dan Coates. And the Democratic nominee for the 2nd District U.S. House seat is South Bend's Lynn Coleman. He defeated Doug Carpenter by a huge margin tonight. WSBT-22's Diane Daniels was at the Clay Democratic Club in Roseland tonight as Coleman declared victory.
After a career in the South Bend Police Force and then in the administration of former South Bend Mayor Steve Littke, Lynn Coleman now has his sights set on November and becoming the next congressman to represent Indiana's 2nd District.
What can you do to help us? Continue what you've done tonight, okay? This is not Lynn Coleman's race. This is not Lynn Coleman's candidacy. This is the race and the candidacy for the people in the 2nd District.
Coleman says turning the seat back to blue is key to him, and he knows it won't be easy in a district redrawn to be more favorable to the GOP. But he's looking to his November opponent, Jackie Walorski's first win from back in 2012, for some inspiration.
4 years ago against Brandon Mullen, she won by 4,000 votes. And I just believe, being an optimist, that there were 4,000 people out there that we could get to, that we could get to support this candidacy.
Coleman says his strategy will be one of focusing less on running against Walorski and more on running for the people of the 2nd District, the people who he hopes to represent in Congress after the November election. In South Bend, Diane Daniels, WSBT 22 News.
Well, Coleman will face incumbent Representative Jackie Walorski in November. She easily won the Republican Party's nomination tonight with nearly 70% of the vote. WSBT 22's Zach Crenshaw is with Walorski supporters.
It was a big night and a big win for incumbent Congresswoman Jackie Walorski as she resoundingly beat her opponent, Jeff Peterman, in the primary for the 2nd District. It was all smiles for Representative Jackie Walorski as she greeted supporters after a big win in her primary.
I think this is such an important time right now when Hoosiers came out around this country and made a difference.
Earlier today, Walorski wouldn't say who she voted for, but reiterated tonight she will support the Republican nominee, which looks to be Donald Trump.
I'm ready to get behind any president that is going to be the commander-in-chief, which we haven't had for 8 years. Anybody that's willing to stand in that office, we're going to work with them.
Walorski said she will continue to focus on issues like national security and treatment of military veterans, and isn't turning her attention to November just yet.
And I am laser focused on making sure that we continue to lead in the 2nd District and we continue to keep our nation safe.
Jackie Walorski will now face Democratic candidate Lynn Coleman from South Bend, a retired police officer. Walorski, though, says she's just focusing on serving the 2nd District until November rolls around, and we'll do this all over again. Reporting on the St. Joseph County GOP headquarters, Zach Crenshaw, WSBT 22 News.
2 referendums on the ballot today.
Voters approved a $42 million referendum for New Prairie School District. That money spread district-wide for improvements. WSBT 22's Suzanne Spencer is at the live desk with those results right now. Suzanne.
Jennifer, 70% of that $42 million will go towards the high school, mostly infrastructure needs for the decades-old building, replacing pipes, ceilings, and making room for a growing student body. For a $100,000 home, this referendum means an annual increase of about $60, and school administrators tell me they're ready to get started.
This is so important for us at New Prairie because of our high school. Our high school needs this. Our high school was built almost 50 years ago, and not a lot has been done to it since it was opened in 1968.
New Prairie spent months researching, educating the public, and doing community forums. Much of the same process we've seen other districts do to try and get a referendum approved.
That's right, Suzanne. Argus is another district vying for a referendum.
And results on that race just into our newsroom. That referendum failed by more than 200 votes. The district says we'll have to make immediate staff cuts and cuts to programs, but they said they plan to push for another referendum in the future.
All right, Suzanne, thanks very much.
Well, St. Joseph County saw record turnout today. More than 40,000 cast their votes. The election board says the contentious campaigns had people excited to have their voices heard. Lines were long at polling locations, but the county used iPads for the first time to help speed up that process. Voters simply scanned their ID to check in. Poll workers used to have to look voters up by name in a huge paper poll book. St. Mary's College political science professor Sean Savage is here with us tonight.
A lot of people really shocked by how big Donald Trump won. You look at Ted Cruz, he practically lived here for the past week or so.
Yeah, exactly. It appears so far. For some reason, we haven't had any votes come in from the 7th congressional district. But for all the other congressional districts, Sanders carried all of them against Clinton except the 1st congressional district, which includes Gary and Hammond. Hillary Clinton carried that, but Sanders carried the rest. Likewise, for Trump, it was generally a clean sweep across the state according to congressional districts. Now, one congressional district that was supposed to be very important for Ted Cruz was Marlin Stutzman's congressional district based in Fort Wayne. That's an area that has, again, a lot of white evangelical Christians. He was really courting them, really trying to get out the vote from them. But it appears that Trump very narrowly carried that congressional district against Cruz.
And when you look at Ted Cruz dropping out tonight, so much talk the past few weeks about a contested convention possibly for the Republicans. You know, as the old saying, is the hay in the barn now for Donald Trump? Is he going to be the nominee for the GOP?
It looks as if he probably will. I mean, we have several more primaries. Obviously, California is a very big primary with a lot of delegates. It appears as if Trump is going to win overwhelmingly there, and in New Jersey, which is a winner-take-all primary. He should certainly have more than the magic number of 1237, the minimum number of delegates required to win the nomination.
So you look ahead to November here, it certainly is setting up to look like a Trump-Clinton battle.
Exactly. You know, when Donald Trump was here in South Bend at his rally, he was already saying, he was already beginning now to focus his campaign entirely in running against Hillary Clinton.
It's been a very interesting campaign so far. You know, none that we've seen with some of the craziness we've seen. Do you expect that to continue?
Oh, I think more interesting things are bound to come between now and Election Day in November.
Speaking of the heat and the passion, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
That and other things, I'm sure.
Yeah. All right. Good insight, Sean. Thank you so much.
Welcome.